Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, then I'm Shreya, a full-time artist, art educator, Skillshare teacher and YouTuber from India. Today we'll be painting a monsoon landscape using none other than watercolors. So let's not waste any time and let's get started. As usual, we will start by applying masking tape on all four sides. Here I'm using Chitrapat paper which is handmade. For colors I'll be using 2V watercolors with which you can use the code SHREY2V to get 13% off on all their colors. Make sure that you check the description box below because I will mention all the codes and everything there, so be sure to check it out before you leave this page. Alright, so once we have applied the masking tape, we just sketched it out. It's quite simple. And then let's talk about the brushes. So here I'll be using pigeon letter round brushes size 14 and one small brush, that is the rigger brush, to do all the details. Alright, so the sketch was quite simple. You have to draw the mountains, and then on those mountains we will draw a tiny little road which is leading us towards the last mountain. Alright, once the sketch is done, let's paint the sky first. So we'll be using wet on wet technique. So here I'm just wetting the sky using the clean water. Then to paint the sky and to get the dramatic effect, I will tilt the board first, and then I mixed my black with ultramarine blue, and then I'm starting to apply that color on the wet paper. You see, I'll be leaving few gaps in between, and that's what you have to do. So I'll start with the lighter value. Once I've applied the light value, I will apply the black color directly on the paper, and then I'll also mix a bit of ultramarine blue and start applying the same color on the sky. Again, don't forget to leave the white space in between because those white space will act as the white cloud which we want. So be sure that you don't cover the whole area with the black and blue color. So I'm pretty happy with how my sky is looking right now. So I will let it dry. While that is drying, let's move on to the foreground part. So here I'm taking yellow ochre and mixing a bit of permanent yellow with it to make it little brighter, and I'm applying the first layer of that color onto the mountain. Be sure that you are a little careful around the area where the mountain is touching the sky, because if you will touch that, you see that the colors of the sky are flowing towards the mountain, which you don't want because the sky was still wet. If you want to avoid that, then just let the sky area completely dry and then move on to painting the foreground part, or just leave the tiny little white gap in between the sky and the mountain, and that way you will avoid water getting or the color getting mixed into each other. Alright, so here I'm using yellow ochre, permanent yellow and burnt sienna to paint the foreground part. And I'll continue doing that. First I'll apply the lighter value, and then I will start adding darker value of the same color on the top of it while the color or the underneath layer is still wet, so that the colors will blend in together. So you see I've completely lost the road part. So here I'm just using my nails and scratching that area to lift off some paints, as well as using my brush to lift some paints off. Then again using the same colors to layer that because it was looking way too light. If you are enjoying this video, then make sure that you like. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, then do subscribe so that you don't miss out on the amazing content which I post every week. Alright, so yeah, let's get back to the painting. So while the paper is still wet, I will take the green color and I'll add a bit of yellow ochre to it, and I'll start adding the tiny little dots while the paper is wet because I want that blurred effect. Also, if you are enjoying the videos and you really want to get comfortable with this medium, then I do have a very in detail videos posted on my Skillshare class where we are painting different kinds of landscape, and we are also learning different techniques in watercolor in depth. So if you are on Skillshare, then do check it out. If not, then I will put the link in the description box, and if you will use that link, you will get 1 month of free access to all the classes on that platform. So definitely check that out. And if you are still confused whether you should join Skillshare or not, then I have introduction of all the classes on my YouTube. So check it out and then decide if you want to join or not. Alright, so once we have painted the foreground part, here I'll be painting the background mountain. I'll be using the same color which we have used for the sky, that is the black and ultramarine blue, but I will make it thicker and darker. And I'm just applying that color onto the mountain area. You can always switch to the smaller brush if you are not comfortable using the larger brush. Here this brush has a really good tip, so I'm able to paint all the smaller areas too with this brush. Alright, so now moving on to the detail part, which will give a lot of life and depth in our painting and which will bring everything together. So I switched to my smaller rigger brush and I'm adding a bit of dry brush strokes around the road area. Once that is done, I switch to the larger brush and I'm applying very light value of yellow, ochre and green here and there. Now I will not blend that color and I will leave it as it is because I want that kind of texture on the foreground part. So once that is done, I will again switch to my rigger brush and we will start adding the details. So first here I'm adding some dry brush strokes around the road area. Then again I will use the same brush to add tiny little stones and rocks. First I'm just adding it with the brush and then I will just splatter the same color in the foreground part. Splattering is quite simple. Load your brush with paint and then either use another brush or your hand to just tap it off, and you will see that the drops of colors will fall on the paper. Now once we have added the stones or the rocks, let's add some green color to the landscape. So here I'm mixing my permanent green with yellow ochre and tiny bit of black and blue to make it little darker. And once I'm happy with my green color, I will start adding tiny little dots that will act as our trees and bushes in the background. If you don't have a rigger brush, it's not necessary. You can always use round brush size 1 or 2 to do this detail. You don't necessarily need this brush to do all the details. So never stop painting because you don't have the perfect art supply. Work with whatever you have, because I started with what I had, and with practice and with experimenting, this is where I've reached. So never let yourself stop painting because you don't have the right kind of supplies. No, never do that. So here I'm expecting that this motivated you a little and you will start picking up your brush and paint and paper, whichever you have at your home, and you will start painting. If you do paint and if you do recreate, and if you post on social media, then do tag me. My Instagram handle is @artist I would love to see your recreations. Other social media too, I will link it in the description box so you know where you can find me. In case you have any doubts regarding anything, just DM me or just comment down below. I reply to all my comments. Alright? So yeah, here I'm just adding few grasses, few more splatters of yellow ochre, and once I've added the first layer, I will start adding more bushes and trees in the background, and I will continue doing that until I am satisfied. So yeah, here now I'm adding few fences around the road area. We will start with the small lines, and as we move towards the foreground, the lines will get larger and larger because they are near to our viewpoint. So this is something which you will have to keep in mind when you are painting the fence. Alright, now adding the final few touches like more grasses and more trees. I really felt like the landscape needed some kind of brightness or some kind of color. So what I did is I took my vermilion color and I am adding few flowers in the foreground part, and I will repeat the same step using permanent yellow as well. You can use any color you want to paint the flowers. You can use purple, you can use pink, you can use orange, whichever you like or whichever you have in your palette. Once you are satisfied with all the details in the foreground, let's add trees in the background mountain. So here I'm mixing the same ultramarine and black color, and I'm adding tiny little dots, and I'll just use my finger to blend the color with the mountain on both the sides. Lastly, we will add few more flying birds in the sky. It's quite simple, just draw the V shape and a tiny little dot in the middle. So adding few more birds in the sky and we will be done with our painting. Once the painting has completely dry, you can remove the masking tape at an angle which is away from the paper so that you don't end up tearing it, and do it slowly and kindly. Alright. So I'm really hoping that you enjoyed painting along with me. If you did, then don't forget to do the usual, that is like, subscribe, and do comment and let me know what would you like to see next on my channel. And after removing the tape, this is how our final painting is looking. I have used similar color palette to paint the background landscapes. If you wish, you can try those as well. Now it's time to say goodbye, and I'll see you guys really soon in the next video. Bye.